Alright, welcome to Chaka Context. Now, in this video, I'll be putting us through how to prepare rate analysis for different item of work. We'll be breaking this into different parts because there are so many items that rate analysis are prepared for. So whichever parts we can have them in, and a little we can do as a guide. All right. Now, rate analysis is simply the breakdown of the cost component of a particular rate for a particular item of work. All right, the cost component of that particular rate is what the breaking down of the cost component is what we call the rate analysis. Now, in a rate analysis, there are basically three components. You have the material, you have the labor, and you have the profit and overhead. Material, labor, and profit and overhead. Material, of course, inclusive of the delivery to site or not, you are going to show in your analysis. Now, profit and overhead, basically, right? Everything described under profit and overhead is inclusive of withholding tax. Alright, you may not know, but your employer knows. It is inclusive of withholding tax because withholding tax is that tax paid by an employer on behalf of his employees to the government. Alright. Also, for construction work, it is the same thing. Withholding tax is what the client withholds from a contractor's payment and pays to the government on behalf of the contractor. It is called withholding tax. VAT is the one the contractor pays himself. Withholding tax is paid by the employer of the contractor on that particular job. Alright, now withholding tax is 2.5%. 2.5%. As at the Finance Act amended February 1, 2020, when VAT was increased to 7.5%. Withholding tax for construction services only, please take note, is reduced to 2.5%, perhaps because of the magnitude of construction projects and all. 2.5%. Now, I don't think it has been further amended to 5%. You can check, it's online. You can check withholding tax for construction services. You can check, and if it has, then you have to update this sheet. All right, now this shows the daily labor rate for construction workers, skilled and unskilled. 7,500, and this is per day. This is per hour. All right, the same thing for skilled, for plant operators, and depending on what you want to do. All right, now quickly we jump in, having known these basics. All right, now and also profit and overhead varies from firm to firm, company to company, contractor to contractor. One contractor may make it 10% in this particular job so as to land that particular job. Another one will make it 25%. Another will make it 30%. One basic factor that determines your profit and overhead is your company size. Your company size. That's one basic factor that determines what that actually is. Now, most times it's profit in all profit. In this case, here we have 22.5. Maybe profit is 10%, overhead is 12.5%, or profit is 7.5%, and the other one becomes the overhead. All right. Okay. Thank you. So we continue. Now we have site clearance, clearing of bushes and what do they call that again? Clearing and shrubs and grubbing up their roots and all. We have the labor output, 2 hours per square meter. 2 hours per square meter, and of course we know, of course, it is done manually. If he were to do it by hand, the laborer is paid 437.50 kobo per hour. Right now, for 2 hours, this gives me this. Basically, I add withholding tax of 2.5%. I have profit and overhead of 22.5%. Now this, and also another thing is labor rates may vary from location to location. So please, this is a guide. All right, this is a guide. So please, if you're using it, you have to input what is applicable in your location. I am in Lagos. All right. Okay, thank you. So we go straight to the next one, which is oversight excavation. That is topsoil removal, and the output is 3.75 hours per cubic meter. This is 3 hours 75 minutes per cubic meter, and of course per hour the laborer is paid 750 kobo. All right, so I have this for this particular hour of work, which is this. Now it is for 150 most times. The topsoil excavation is 150 so if I multiply this by 150, I have it in square meters. Then I add withholding tax, all right, and then I add profit and overhead. So this is done, and it will guide you whatever you want to do with regards topsoil excavation. Now if you want to excavate by plant, all right, now of course you need to consider the cost of hiring a bulldozer, and not just a bulldozer, the cost of bringing it down to site. That's the low bed, the cost of fuel, the operator and the assistant, and everything has to be considered. That's what we have here. And a bulldozer basically per day 1,600 square meters. All right, 1,600 square meters, and of course it will not give you that particular output in a day, right? Let's say 75% efficiency. Now why is it that now there are times the operator may have to pause to get instruction, may have to pause to discuss with someone, may have to pause to eat, may have to pause. All right, so that is why it is 75% efficiency per day. So 75% of 1,600 is 1,200. Now bulldozer per day 280,000, low bed for transportation, then the fueling, then the operator's fee. Now if you come here, you see operator, heavy plant operator, then the assistants, say one assistant. Now if I sum everything up here, this is what we have. All right, now the cost per square meter divided by 1,200. All right, then I add withholding tax 2.5%, then I add profit and overhead, which is 22.5%. all right, so I have this. Okay, so this will guide you whenever you want to work for do oversight excavation using a plant. Okay, now let's come to pit excavation per square cubic meter. Of course, trench excavation is in cubic meter, trench or pit excavation is in cubic meter. Now of course we have this this is BASMM 4R, right, not exceeding 1.5 meters deep, and if it is exceeding, and in that order, so the output is 3.5 meter cube per day. These outputs are industry standards, researched industry standards. So 3.5 cubic meter per day. Say we have labor 3,500, then we have tools, shovels, diggers, as the case may be, or maybe barrows, right? So we shall also tools 600 naira per day. So if I sum them up, I have this. All right, so this is 3.0 meter cube per day. If I have this one for 1 cubic meter, all right, for 1 cubic meter, this becomes this divided by 3.5. all right, so I add withholding tax, and you see here I have this to be this, then I add profit and overhead. I always want my this to be like this. So all right, so how's this? Give me this like this. All right, so the cost per cubic meter is 1470.88 naira. That's 1,470 naira 88 kobo. Right, so this is basically how you prepare the rate for pit excavation. Now when we come to level and compacting, now in the BESMM 4R, when you when you do take off, you don't do take off for level and compacting anymore. They are deemed to be included. However, if we are to do it, okay, let's say based on one number label, all right, on the same thing, not exceeding that blah blah blah. I have 0.5 hours per cubic meter, 30 minutes per cubic meter, per square meter, sorry, because it's in square meter. 0.5 hour, that's 30 minutes per square meter. And of course, this guy is paid this amount, 437.5. Right, so if I, this is what we have, I multiply with that, I have this. All right, so simply add withholding tax, and also I add the profit and overhead. So we have this, so approximately that. Now the same thing for okay, anti-termite solution. Anti-termite solution also in the BSM 4R is not being taken off for, so the rate is deemed to be included in your rate of excavation. It's deemed to be included. All right, but in any case, we have of course most times it's solinum, 4.5 liters of solinum at this particular amount. All right, for 1 liter we have this. All right, basically that is what we have here. Cost of solinum per liter is this. Then the output 0.056 liters of that. All right, for 1 square meter. For 1 square meter, so add waste 10%, 5% waste. Sorry. All right. Now the labor requirement. For 1 square meter, it uses 0.45 hour. That's 45 minutes for 1 square meter. All right. So and the labor for per hour is 437.5. So if I multiply this out, I have this item here. All right. Okay. So that's basically what we have on material and labor. This. Now withholding tax is 2.5%. It's approximate itself 2.5%. Then the profit and overhead is this. So if I sum, I have this amount. All right, so this is for anti-termite. Now for earthwork support, you need to know the cubic meter content of the earthwork support. The cubic meter content of the earthwork support, and this is basically what we have here. This is the material requirement, of course, for the two sides and the struts that is going to hold them in place. That is basically what we have here, and this is the total. All right, this is the total. By the time if you sum these three up, you have 2.47. all right, so that's what we have here. Also one number of 100 by 100 by 3.6 is the length. We have it to be this. Now the volume content also is that. So by the time I multiply, this is giving me 26,000 naira, which is what I'm going to use for my rate here. All right, so cost of holding support, 1 cubic meter. Of course, we already know the cubic meter content, which is 26,000. All right, so for 2.47, which is what we did here, having sum everything here, the cubic meter content, it's giving me this. Now we'll see. I multiply it out. All right, so we assume 3 usage. It's used 3 times. It could be 4, it could be 5, depending on contractors and depending on companies. All right, for 3, I divide this item here by 3. So I add waste. All right, so nil, 36%. All right, depending on the depth and the expanse of work you are doing. All right, so another person might use 25%, another person might use 10, another person might use 40. All right, so you know what is applicable. So I have that. So this is the material content, and we have the labor. Now say carpenters. Let's say 2 carpenters for 6 hours each. That is 12 hours. And of course, carpentry work, they are not for unskilled artisan, they are for skilled artisans. So 7.5 per day, am I right? That is what we have from our details here. 7.5, and per hour is 9.37. All right, so by 12 I have that. Now on skilled labor, maybe for unloading and for stacking of these materials, three numbers. So if I multiply this, I have that. This is the amount for skilled labor per day, 3,500 per hour, 3,500 per day. All right, 437.5 per hour. So this is basically what we have. So if I sum that, this is what I'll be having for the labor component. So we'll bring everything down: material and labor. All right, now you see what I have here. This is by 30. This is what is used. This is what I used here for 30-meter length. All right, 30-meter length. That is why you see how to divide it by 30 to get the length. Yes, 30 square meters. Sorry, for 30 square meters. All right, so this is what we have. Now this is material and labor per square meter. If I did this 2.5 and I add profit and overhead, that gives me this. All right, so cost per square meter for earthwork support is 1,805 naira 22 kobo. Then we'll talk about disposal. All right, now disposing of materials off site or maybe within the site, as the case may be. Now of course, talk about if I must dispose, I need a truck, I need a tipper, right, to take these materials whether to a part of the site or out of the site and to rent. Cost of hiring this per day is 25,000. All right, 25,000, and 0.75, that's 1 hour 25 minutes, 1 hour 15 minutes. All right, for each trip. All right, so if I multiply that by this, I have that. Then the loading, that's 7.62 hour per trip. All right, 7.62 hour per trip. If I multiply that also, I have this. Now total cost of trip is this. Now our equipment cost per cubic meter in a trip divided by 3.81, right, which is the volume of the tipper. Okay, so that I add withholding tax, then I add profit and overhead, then it gives me that. This is this. Yeah. All right, so this is this and this is that. All right, okay, now this is for disposal. Basically the cost of hiring the tipper, the trip it will go. Now these are industry research standard. All right, then 3.8 cubic meter for 1 cubic meter trip, or 1 cubic meter trip divided by 3.8. all right, then you add withholding tax, then you add the profit and overhead. Now disposal of material, disposal of material, of excavated material, all right, not exceeding one with excavation, blah blah. All right, this is within the site. All right, maybe within the site. All right, so the output is 5 meter cube per day. All right, because you're just packing and you're going to keep somewhere 5 cubic meter per day, and they are basically done by the unskilled artisans. 3,500 now you for tools, shovels, digger, barrows, 600 naira. So the summation of that is this. Okay, Right, for 1 cubic meter I divide by 5. That's what we have here. For 1 cubic meter I divide by 5, then add withholding tax, and then I add profit and overhead. That gives me this. Then profit and overhead gives me this. So that this is 1029 naira 61 kobo per cubic meter. Alright, now backfilling. Backfilling to excavated materials. Backfilling to excavation. Okay. Now basically 8 cubic meter is the output per day. 8 cubic meter, and it is being done by unskilled labor 3,500. Alright, so this gives me that, right? Of course, for tools, shovels, diggers, as the case may be. Then I add withholding tax 2.5%, then I add profit and overhead. Alright, that gives me that. Then imported laterite. This is taking much time. I was thinking it is going to be short. Alright, for imported laterite, of course you have to hire the imported laterite filling. Okay, density of laterite, of course, is ranging from this to this. You already have it there. Then I have 1.3 tons. That's 1.95 tons. Now 30 tons of laterite is 252,100 delivered to site, and the cost per ton is 8,403. Alright, so the cost of laterite 1.95, which is what we just did here, is this. At this amount, I have this. Now of course you have to compact at 30 cubic meter per day, right? 30,000. Now for 1 cubic meter it is 1,000 per day, 1 cubic meter. All right, so that's this is the material component, and the labor component to spread and to level is 5 meter cube in a day. All right, so we have general labor to do that work. Then we have the tools also. That gives me this. All right, excuse me. All right, this is for 1 cubic meter. Is this labor cost per cubic meter? Then I have the summary, what I have here. Then the labor, then that of the compactor. Alright, that gives me this. Then add withholding tax. Then withholding tax is 2.5%, not 5%. 2.5%. Alright, so that gives me, this is per cubic meter, and this is our filling is done in 150 layers, 150 thickness, multiplied by 150. Shit. That gives me this. All right, then hardcore. Now hardcore, okay, per cubic meter, and the same thing we did over there. 30 tons is 482,100. Now cost of hardcore per ton, if I divide by 30, I have this 1.76 tons. At now, see what I see how calculated the density is this. Add 10% for shrinkage, for safety factor 1 of 10 safety factor 10%. That gives me 1.76. So this here. Now the same thing we did in the laterite filling, the same thing we're going to do here. 7 cubic meter per day, but for laterite is 5 cubic. Because these are quite heavier than what? 7 cubic meter per day. All right. So this gives me this, and for one cubic meter I have this. So this is a summary of what I have. All right, then this is the labor that we just calculated. All right, so that add 2.5%, I have this. Then add profit and overhead, then I have this. Right, so depending on if it is to be laid in 150, will be at 150 layer. Alright, this becomes this times 0.15. Alright, so I basically I can just round it up to 2 decimal places. Alright, if I don't want to go via this. Alright, so that gives me this, or maybe layer of 300, right, as the case may be. Okay, now we have sharp sand filling is by sharp sand. It is the same thing. I have this for 212,100 delivered to site. Alright, cost of filling per ton, which is this. And if it's in cubic meter, yeah, 20.4. Alright, so sharp sand filling for 1 cubic meter. I have this. Now stockpile waste. Right, that gives me that, so that this becomes labor 1.5 that's 1 hour 30 minutes per cubic meter. Right, for this guy he's being paid this 437.5. Alright, this is labor, add withholding tax, and profit and overhead. Alright, I love this like this so that you don't miss out anything. Alright, so for 150 mm thickness it is this. Okay, then level ram bottom of excavation. Of course, per square meter the labor has spent 0.4 hours. Alright, take off 0.4 times 60, 0.4 times 60. Alright, 24 minutes. Alright, spent 24 minutes. Alright, so this gives me this, then I add withholding tax, I add profit and overhead. The same thing when it comes to mesh we have them for different sizes, so whichever sizes you want to work on. Now in this case I am working on this here, which is the last one, 4.5. That's 2 by 4, 2 by 40. Alright, so 1 square meter is what I already did here, divided by 80. Now for laps, that gives me this. Then the spreading, cutting and spreading 120 square meter per day. Right, by gang. Now we have the skilled, we have the unskilled. So if I sum them up, I have that. Then cost per square meter, I divide it by 120. Alright, so this is the summary of what we have. This is this here material, this is labor. If I sum them, then I add profit, withholding tax, and I add profit and overhead. And for damp-proof membrane, that's DPM nylon, 25 kg. It covers 25 square meters, 250 square meters. Alright, so for 1 square meter, this will be divided by 250. Alright, so for 1 nylon, then DPM nylon per square meter is this. Alright, then of course there will be laps and waste 10%. Alright, material cost. The labor cost for cutting. Yeah, okay, load maybe 820 row at 5 naira. Cutting and spreading 150 square meter per day. Now of course now labor is this divided by 150. This is this amount per square meter. Alright, so the summary material is this, the labor per square meter is this. Then if I sum this up, I have this, then add withholding tax, then I add profit, and this is 251. Now this is how it's exhausting. Now this is how you do material and rate analysis for excavation item. Alright, so going forward we're making it shorter than this. We'll be breaking out the time. So you just want to do all excavation items in item and other ancillary works under excavation in one video, so that we don't have to come back and be loading. All right, thank you very much. I hope this helps your professional career and your academics. This is Chaka Quantic. See you guys in the next video.